Well, it goes all the way back to when I was in high school and I was alone one day and flipping around the channels, and I came across a film called Citizen Kane. It was just starting. And I sat there, and despite all the commercials on a small black and white screen, I got it and I loved it. And that led to me going into acting and doing radio and then coming out to the West Coast and going to junior college and finally going to UCLA. So I studied filmmaking in UCLA Film Department for several years. I get up to my senior year, and they wanted me to do a 10-minute film. This seemed like a waste of time to me. I'd already been working in the industry a bit. So instead, I dropped out of film school, bought an 8 millimeter camera and an 8 millimeter editor, the old kind that used to have to work that way. And I started putting hours of film through my camera, color and black and white, and then analyzing it on my little editor, putting it apart, taking it apart, putting it back together, doing 6 and 2 and 4 and 12 frame cuts. And basically, I taught myself how to work in cinema on that little 8 millimeter camera and editor. I discovered editing. I discovered that the cuts I was making would cut to the beats of music because there were half notes and quarter notes and eighth notes, etc. I discovered cinematography, black and white and color film. I discovered studio and practical and available lighting. And then when I got a little more confident, I started hustling films. And then one thing led to another, and here I am. Well, basically, I told anyone who would listen, this is my life. This is what I'm going to do. You have to kill me to get me out of here. I haven't started in this town yet, and I'm going to stay here until I make it. And that was the determination that I had. And that's the determination you need to have because it's a very hard industry. I had no connections in the industry at all. I was just a guy from the Midwest who was living in Los Angeles. But I was determined to do it, and I stuck to it until I did it. Even after I had done a lot of films, I would still have sometimes 12 or 6 or 12 or 18 months of unemployment. I had to gut it through, but I never looked back and I never stopped. I just kept putting my head down and burrowing into it. Well, I got Kickboxer because I'd been the cinematographer on Bloodsport. And Newt Arnold was the director of Bloodsport. I love Newt because he'd worked with Sam Peckinpah and William Friedkin, a great old guy. We got on perfectly. And Newt shot about 250,000 feet of film on Bloodsport. Well, I was used to working more streamlined. So even though Bloodsport was all shot in Hong Kong, 240,000 feet, even though on Kickboxer we were shooting in Hong Kong and Bangkok, I only shot about 125,000 feet of film because I storyboarded everything. Every scene is storyboarded down to even the insert shots, so I knew exactly what I wanted to do and what I wanted to get. And that was the interesting thing about Bloodsport, is that it was shot in 5 weeks. Bloodsport was shot in like 8 weeks, and Kickboxer was shot in like 5 weeks, and on 125,000 feet of film. So it was great working with JCVD again. He's always he was very talented and accomplished young man, so I loved having him on the screen. And of course, he did his famous dance. Well, JCVD is very great talent. He was a great talent, and I had him on his first 2 films, Bloodsport and Kickboxer. And that film the scene was planned, but JCVD wanted to do it, of course, because he wanted to show off his moves and his skills. And he has great skills because he's been a martial artist and a ballet dancer. And he has a lot of talent. And so that scene was planned, and we did it, and he did the fighting and he did the dancing. I think he might have liked the dancing even more than the fighting. Yeah, no, I never realized the budget. Someone else realized the budget. I just went from film to film as a cinematographer or director, and they would interview me, and they would either like what I brought to the table or not. Mostly they liked it, and then I would make the movie, and I would be as economical as possible, and I always brought it in under schedule and under budget, because I showed up early. I was the first one there and the last one gone every day, because I valued the people who were investing in the film, and I wanted to get them their money back and wanted to get them the product as economically as possible, and I always did that. Well, that's dictated by the script, of course. If it's a scary story or a frightening story like The Prophet's Game, I can't bring funny things into it. If it's a action film, you usually don't have a lot of romance. Although Kickboxer had both action and romance. But whatever the script asks for, I'm happy to do and happy to bring to the table. Get the best actors, give them time, rehearse them, and do it. That depends on the gods of production, because usually it starts very early in the morning, and you arrive on set. You make sure that I always made sure my lighting was done. I always did pre-lighting to ensure all the lights were already built into the set or location. Then I would make sure the actors were ready. Then I would rehearse the actors, and when they were ready, we'd start capturing the scene. If it was action, then I always had 3 cameras, so that we could, if it was an action scene, there would be a fight. There would be 1 camera that would always be on a master, and the other 2 cameras would always stay with one of the other actors, one of the other fighters. So it was a grueling 12 hours, but we got it done. Oh, yes, I love the new technical advances. I was one of the first persons to embrace nonlinear editing and high definition cameras. I love them because I used to have trucks of lighting equipment with me. Now I don't. I co-directed a feature last year called Borrowed Time 3, and the entire package, the entire equipment was in a man's backpack. It was a Blackmagic small palm-sized HD camera, and it was a drone, both 4K. Go anywhere in Los Angeles, go into a house, go into a location, go on the 6th Street Bridge, take it out and shoot. Nobody even sees you there. I love those advances. I embrace those advances, and I champion those advances, and I'm going to try to take those advances to Europe this year and make a movie there. Well, Warrior of the Lost World was very thrilling film for me, because it happened faster than any film I'd ever been involved with before or since. This happened after I'd done a couple of films with Clint Eastwood. I thought I'd get work right away. Nobody even called for 2 years. My phone didn't ring. So I typed out a treatment, and I was calling around to various producers trying to interest them in my treatment. I got Senzi, a friend, on the phone, and I was pitching it to him, and I gave him the pitch. He said, okay, call Ed Sarlouis, call this producer friend of mine from Rome and give him your pitch. So I said, okay. So I called Ed Sarlouis, and I got him on the phone. I gave him my pitch. I said, here's what it is. It's a guy rides into town on a high-speed motorcycle, comes out of the heat waves on the horizon. He kills all the bad guys, rights all the wrong, kisses the girl, rides back out of town. There's a pause, and he says, put it in the future. I said, fine, it's in the future. He said, would you like to go to Rome and direct that film? I said, yeah, when do you want to make the deal? He said, come into my office tomorrow. This was on a Wednesday. On Thursday, I went into his office. I signed the deal. I got a check. I packed, and by Saturday morning, I was already in Rome planning the movie. Never happened faster before. So that's why I love Warrior of the Lost World for that. Plus, the lady that I had, the beautiful Chinese lady, Mimi Chia, that I was dating at the time, came and visited me on location, and we fell in love in Rome. We were married for over 35 years. Lady Dragon was also a great film because, again, I'd been unemployed for a while, and the producer, they were from Indonesia, sent their son, who was a film student at USC, to meet me. And he asked me, did I want to come to Indonesia and make a movie? I didn't know a thing about Indonesia, but I needed the work. I said, yeah, I'd love to go to Indonesia and make a movie. So I went to Indonesia, and it was really, really hard. It was not even. Here's what the Indonesians' idea of production was: a week of prep, a week, 2 weeks of shooting, and a week of post. I was used to 6 weeks of prep, 4 weeks of shooting, 10, 12 weeks of post. So I could see I was in a big trouble. I put in my contract that I had to have 6 weeks of prep, that I had to have 4 weeks of shooting, that I had to have 12 weeks of post. The cameras, I put in the 3 cameras, the 125,000 feet of film, etc. Put it all in my contract, and they agreed to it, and they brought me over there, and I was able, by hook or crook, to make a international movie. And they got their first international sale. They'd made 75 movies. None of them had sold internationally except Lady Dragon. Well, Bloodsport, of course, is the first film with Van Damme, my first film in Hong Kong. And I loved that total experience working with Newt Arnold, who worked with Sam Peckinpah and Billy Friedkin. It was a great experience, a great film, and it led to me directing Kickboxers. So that was a terrific experience. Well, Bronco Billy was, of course, one of my favorite films because it was my first Warner Brothers big studio, big star film. What I brought to the table was, during Death Game, I had been the cinematographer and editor on a little film called Death Game, a little $150,000 film with Sandra Locke, Seymour Cassel, and Colleen Camp. And when I was editing that film, I discovered Stanley Kubrick's lighting technique of building the lighting into the sets. And that's what I brought to Bronco Billy. I built all the lighting into all the sets and locations, the circus tent, the hotels, wherever we happened to be shooting, the bars. So Clint could come in and shoot in any direction. I never had to move a light. As a result, Bronco Billy came in under schedule, not just a few days under schedule, 2.5 weeks under schedule. That's why Clint kind of put his arm around me and said, why don't you hang around for a while? We're going to start up another one. And that's why I got to do Any Which Way You Can also. Well, it was of course working with Clint. It was a huge film. We had like 10 or 12 weeks of shooting. It was all over California and Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and a huge cast. And of course, Clyde. Clyde was wonderful, working with the orangutan Clyde. And it was a great experience. It was easy for me. I took my family with me on location. Even before, when I was shooting in Buenos Aires, I brought my girlfriend, Mimi, down. Because I said, you got to come down and see if you can take this way of life. And she could, and we got engaged on that film. We fell in love in Rome when I was directing Warrior of the Lost World. And then after we had our child, David, I brought them on location with me to go and do The Johnny Cry, Kickboxer, and Lady Dragon 2 in Indonesia, and Chain of Command in Israel. I'd work a hard day. I'd be drained when I got home. But as soon as I opened the door, David would go, da-da, da-da. It would pick up my energy, and I would feel renewed, and go in and start chopping the garlic and make pasta on a hot plate for everyone. It was wonderful. So that was how I solved the problem. I brought my family with me. Well, the actors are the heart and soul of any film. And so I always work very carefully with them. I have the lighting all prepared. I have it built into the set so they can come and we can get our coverage very quickly. I rehearse them. I want to see what they've brought to the table, and then I adjust it. Usually they're right on. I've had some actors who were non-actors who didn't even know what to do. And so I had a girl in a film once, and she had to cry in the scene. She didn't know how to do it. So I said, okay, I want you to get a set of earphones and a little recorder and play whatever music makes you cry, whatever music you can find that really brings out that emotion in you, and bring it to the set that day. And she did. She worked on it all day, and when it came time to do her scene, then she was fine. I try to offer whatever help I can. The actors usually are all very professional. Never say I have to say a word to Jean-Claude Van Damme or Clint Eastwood or any of those guys, or Dennis Hopper. They're so professional. They come totally prepared. I've taught cinematography and directing at Chapman University, at Chapman's campus in Singapore, at UCLA, USC, and the Academy of Art University in San Francisco for about a 10 or 12-year period. I was a film professor. So that was fun. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I also like teaching online. Now I do that. I teach cinematography and directing and film production online. Watch movies. Watch American football. I like watching MMA. I like cooking. I cook a lot for my family. And I exercise. I have an exercise bike. I do a half hour 3 times a week. So I keep busy and I keep fit. I eat well and sleep well, and I enjoy my life. Bloodsport, Kickboxer, China Cry, True Vengeance, all of these films, my technique is always to have 3 cameras. To pre-light the set so the set lighting is in the entire set. I don't have to move any lights. And then I can come in with my 3 cameras, shoot a master, and shoot close-ups of the fight scene. In Kickboxer, we had all the lights built into the Bloodsport. We had all the lights built into the Kumite. Then we had 3 Panavision cameras. We would shoot 3 cameras wide over the audience, through the audience. Maybe one would be dollying. I'd have 1 camera on a boom to always stay wide and see the blocking of the fight. And then the other 2 cameras would concentrate on one fighter and the other fighter, on Tong Po or on JCVD. And that way, we would shoot 3 cameras wide, then 3 cameras tight, then handheld on the mat, and then the highlights in slow motion, the knockout or special kicks in slow motion. And we did that all day, every day, for 7 days to shoot all the fights on the Kumite for Bloodsport. I averaged 75 setups a day. I had a high of 93 that I thought I would never break. However, on True Vengeance with Daniel Bernhardt, who went on to star in Atomic Blonde, I managed to get 105 setups one day, again with 3 cameras and pre-lit sets. That's how I work. Now, Jackie Chan works differently. He would just do 1 camera, but he would just do one thing, then go to the next thing, go to the next thing. Everyone has their own way of working. I found that 3 cameras, no waiting, is we refer to as the Peckinpah package, is always my favorite way of working for action. Well, that thrills me, of course, because that's what we make the movie. We don't make the movie just to be shown for 1 or 2 people. We make them for everyone to enjoy. And the fact that they are enjoyed, Bloodsport and Kickboxer are on cable television every day of every week almost. So are the Eastwood films. So is often the Dennis Hopper film, but Prophet's Game. I'm very pleased when that happens, and I get emails from people all over the planet emailing me like you did about the films, wanting to talk about them, wanting to discuss them, wanting to know about them. I'm happy to talk with anyone at any time from any country because being able to travel to Hong Kong, Bangkok, Macau, Indonesia, Israel, South America, South Africa, Bulgaria, Romania has enabled me to be working as an independent filmmaker all over the planet. So I enjoyed every bit of it. So I'm happy to talk to anyone at any time from anywhere. It's someone who doesn't have any connection with the regular film industry, usually. There are plenty of people now who are doing great jobs on their own. There's a young director named Sean Baker who did Tangerine, great film, shot on 2 iPhone 5s in 2015, great film. Natural locations, available light, transgender, non-actors, shot in 2 weeks in Hollywood. Absolutely brilliant. One of those brilliant films ever made. I put him up there with Roberto Rossellini and Jean-Luc Godard and John Cassavetes and Sean Baker. Those were revolutionary independent filmmakers who came out of the woodwork and found a way to make the films they wanted to make. And that's what I aspire to.